When you get your hands on a 10,000 Paraguayan Guarani note, have you ever looked at its face? A bearded man, with a stern look. Looks like a statesman. But there's a problem. Who is this man? The banknote says Juan Bautista Gill. But that face, it's not his. And maybe it doesn't belong to anyone at all. One, a name that exists, a face that doesn't. When you hold the 10,000 Paraguayan Guarani note, a stern-faced man looks back at you. The name written below, Juan Bautista Gill. But here's the issue. That face is not his. Gill was a president of Paraguay in the 1800s. But there's no clear portrait of him that has survived. So this face might belong to no one at all. At this point, you have to ask, why is this face there? Because it isn't meant to be a real person. It's meant to represent the state itself. An anonymous symbol of power. Unreal, yet familiar. Cold, precise, faceless. Maybe that's exactly why it was chosen. Not to represent anyone, but to rule over everyone. This banknote is not a memory of a leader. It's a mask of the system. There is a face. There is a name. But there is no past. No memory. And maybe that's exactly why it's powerful. Because silence is sometimes the loudest symbol. 2. An unknown identity, but a familiar power. If this portrait does not belong to a person, why does it feel so familiar? Because what is represented here is not a person, but a role. Wearing a tie, bearded, serious, like a template for how the state should look. This face tells us, this is how a leader stands. Without question, cold-blooded, unmoving. So this is not just a portrait. It is a guide for behavior. Even if it is not Gill, it is the figure imagined to be Gill. Perhaps that's why no real face was chosen. Because the more ambiguous the face, the more people it can represent. Any power can insert itself into this void. Any government can find its own shadow in this face. This portrait does not depict an individual. It depicts the formlessness of power. It has a name, but no essence. No past, but a clear message. Don't ask, who are you? Just say, I am the state. 3. Hidden symbols, the power of the unseen. If you only look at the 10,000 Guarani with your eyes, what you see will remain limited. But if you examine it more carefully, you will realize that even what you cannot see has a language. At the top, there is a raised triangle. Though it seems made for the blind, it is in fact a sign. You can feel without seeing. But you don't need to know what you feel. When the banknote is held to the light, a hidden text appears, reading BCP 10,000. Normally invisible, but it's there. Something is watching, even if you are unaware. And that color-changing security strip, depending on your angle, green, gold, or copper, never fixed, but always present. All these symbols quietly tell you, this is not just money. This is a tool of surveillance. And it is not in your hands. You are in its hands. So perhaps the real portrait is not the face on the paper, but the system beneath the paper. 4. The reverse side, freedom or surveillance. When we turn to the reverse side of the banknote, we encounter a powerful symbol, a lion. Next to it, a spear. And atop the spear, a red cap. This is a classic symbol of liberty. But here, something feels off. The lion is sitting. It is tied to the spear. In other words, it is not guarding freedom. It is waiting for it, as if it were an idea kept on hold. A promise unfulfilled. What is written above? Republic of Paraguay. But the face of this republic is unclear. The face on the front portrait is faded. The symbol on the back is abstract. So this money does not speak through a person, but through an expectation. The symbol of freedom stands next to a chained animal. And perhaps the message is this. We are the ones who define freedom. We also decide when it will be revealed. What is visible? Freedom. What is hidden? Control. 5. The language of symbols. Look a little closer at the banknote. The color is purple, leaning towards red. Purple, authority. Red, blood, crisis, struggle. Is this a coincidence? Or is the money silently whispering history? There are 2 languages on it, Spanish and Guarani. On one side, the colonial past. On the other, the indigenous culture. 2 separate heritages, compressed onto a single piece of paper. But the face is in the center, and it's unclear who it belongs to. So the banknote feels like an identity, suspended between 2 cultures, neither fully indigenous, nor fully Western. The symbols, the language of colors, the alphabet used, all of them say something. This is how a nation defines itself. But this definition is not clear, And its ambiguity may be intentional, because uncertainty serves the powerful. Something you cannot clearly define can be interpreted however you wish. 6. Why is that face still there? There is someone on Paraguay's 10,000 Guarani note who doesn't have a real portrait. Why is it still there? Because that face works for everyone, precisely because it belongs to no one. It represents no specific era and is tied to no particular person. Every new government can assign whatever meaning it wants to it. That's why it isn't changed. That face symbolizes the sustainability of a system. Abstract, faceless, fixed. Every time it looks at you, it says, "Who I am doesn't matter. I'm above you." 7. This is not a portrait, it's a mirror. The face on the 10,000 Guarani note doesn't ask you anything, but it shows you this. This is not a person, it's a reflection. A silent, authoritarian, unresponsive image the state has drawn for itself. It's enough for you to see it. You don't need to question it. And that face, which seems to be watching you, is actually describing you. Your acceptance, your silence, your indifference. Because this is not just a portrait. It's a mirror.